All right, here is my audience of 5 for my informative speech. Okay. You may know her from her unkempt eyebrows or her flower-adorned updo, or perhaps as one of the most successful Latin American artists in history. I'm talking, of course, about Mexican artist Frida Kahlo. I have written multiple papers about Frida. I've even gone as far as to visit a museum in Florida that had a special exhibition of her artwork, and I'm very fascinated with her. A lot of people can recall her iconic look with the eyebrows and the hair, but not a lot of people know about her artwork or her personal life or even her political affiliations. Frida is known for her artwork, mostly self-portraits, as well as her dramatic and tumultuous personal life and her kind of controversial political activism. So it's my wish today to give you some further insight that you may not have known about this infamous Latina artist that is Frida, as well as some further information that you can take with you that might be new and interesting about her art, her life, or her nature. So first and foremost, when we're talking about Frida, you have to talk about her art. She was very much a visionary in the way that she did paint. She painted with a lot of heavy symbolism, and a lot of her subject matter that she did paint about was rather taboo and sometimes was uncomfortable to talk about. She especially was very interesting as a female artist because in the time period that she was painting, not a lot of female artists painted, let alone painted the intense subject matter that she did. First and foremost, Frida is quoted as saying, "I paint self-portraits because I'm so often alone and because I am the person that I know best." And I think there's an element of sadness to that as well as self-awareness that Frida knows what she wants to paint about is herself. She knows herself and what she needs to do to make herself happy. There's an article written by Frida in her paintings in 2011 from fridakahlo.org that states that of her 143 paintings, 55 of those are self-portraits, which shows that the majority of what she did want to paint was herself, and that was the subject that she did know best, like she said. When she did paint herself in self-portraits, she often made herself more masculine than she actually looked in real life. For example, the unibrow, the more masculine jawline, and that was the reality that she saw herself in at that point in time. In the 1930s and 40s, when she was painting, there weren't a lot of women painting themselves like that. Women are seen as these delicate objects. And as I mentioned earlier, Frida had no problem talking about the taboo, such as pregnancy, miscarriage, abortion, infidelity, and relationships. She was very rebellious and bold and broke down barriers in this nature. Further on in Amy Fine Collins' Vanity Fair article, she cites that Frida's 1942 self-portrait with parrot and monkey actually sold for $3.2 million, which was the highest price ever paid for a Latin American work of art and the second highest ever paid for a woman. So she was like a breath of fresh air to the public in the way that she did paint. It was different. It was like nothing else people had seen before. And she was very vulnerable in that aspect, and that found strength for her in her artwork. In addition to being an artist, it's kind of hard to talk about her art without mentioning her personal life because that is so often what she painted in her artwork. And her personal life was not easy at all, both physically and emotionally. She suffered multiple tragedies. Physically, at the age of 6, she was stricken with polio in her leg, where she actually almost lost her leg and she had to be wearing a brace that really hindered her mobility. And that affected her psychologically as well, where she felt different from her playmates. Further on, that wasn't the end of the tragedy. At the age of 18, she was actually involved in a horrible trolley accident that nearly killed her. And in that trolley accident, as a result, she had to be in a back brace, and she was bed-stricken for a very long time. There's actually photos of Frida painting, laying back in a bed with all this machinery around her, holding her up so she could sit up to paint. And that is often displayed in her artwork as well, her back brace and her leg brace and things like that, and the symbolism. But beyond the physical pain, I think what really affected Frida's art more than anything was her emotional pain. It was the way that she expressed herself, whereas she felt so misunderstood and strange in this world. And that mainly comes in the form of her husband and fellow painter Diego Rivera. They actually married twice. Their relationship was very tumultuous. There was open infidelity happening on both sides, and a lot of artwork was inspired by this unhealthy relationship. In her article by Mary Motion Meadows, she quotes Frida as saying that there have been 2 great accidents in my life. One was the trolley, and the other was Diego. Diego was by far the worst. And I think that really speaks to the pain that Frida felt as a result of her life and the choices that she had made. And that really came up in her artwork. And it was a way that she could express herself and really immortalize what was going on in her life. And she had no problem depicting it starkly on canvas. Furthermore, we can't talk about Frida again without talking about this political affiliation of hers. And she's not just an artist, nor is she by far a victim to any of her circumstances of her life. While it was very tragic and unfortunate, she still took solace in being actively involved in her political affiliation. And this is kind of placed in the background in comparison to other elements of her life, because oftentimes we in America become uncomfortable with this particular aspect of her, because Frida was actually a devout member of the Communist Party. And communism is kind of seen as an unfavorable element here in the States. However, she openly talked about being communist, and it often is displayed in her artwork as well. She actually went as far as to have an open affair with famous Marxist communist Leon Trotsky. And this was well known, and this was another thing that was very much pushed under the rug when we do talk about Frida. But a lot of her art, even she tied it to being critical of the United States. In some of her pieces, she openly criticizes the industrialism of the United States and openly devotes her commission to the Communist Party, really. So one of the poignant statements I think that's made about Frida is from Amy Fine Collins' Vanity Fair article written about her. And she really sums it up nicely and boils it down to a very simple statement. Her art deals with conception, pregnancy, abortion, and gender roles in an unusually frank and open manner, thus making them political statements, because women have not generally felt free to address such personal subjects so publicly. And I think that's true. Frida really did break down a lot of those barriers by speaking openly about things that were certainly happening in the real world to real women, but that women did not feel comfortable discussing out in the open. Frida put it all out there, and the public took her in like a breath of fresh air as a result of that. So in summary, Frida is known for her symbolic artwork, her dramatic life, and her communist politics. And I hope that you can see that she's much more than those iconic eyebrows or her flower-adorned updo. She truly did become a symbol herself of feminism, of fighting against oppression, of open expression. And in this way, she broke down a lot of barriers, and she pushed the limits in a way that people were not doing for a very long time. And for women and Latin American artists alike. And I just hope that as a result of this, that you can take something new or interesting that you may not have known before. Thank you.